What's been the turning point for this development in the US? What's been, the change? What's changed after all this time?
Well, so both the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines have been submitted to the FDA for approval, and they've needed to go through the normal clinical trial process, which is very robust to get the data before the FDA over there can approve the vaccines, which is the same process that we have here in Australia with the TGA.
What's the likely doses for that age group? Will they be given the full dose and 2 doses?
No, so the Moderna vaccine is a quarter of the adult dose. It's 25 micrograms and it's 2 doses 4 weeks apart, whereas the Pfizer vaccine is actually a 3-dose schedule and it's a tenth of the adult dose. It's 3 micrograms. And the first 2 doses are 3 weeks apart, and the third dose is a booster given about 2 months later. So a little bit different, but both have been shown to be quite effective, particularly against severe disease. Although the Moderna vaccine, given that these vaccines were initially developed against the ancestral strain, has slightly lower effectiveness against mild disease.
What does that reduced dose mean for how effective the vaccines are?
Well, so the doses are tested in the age groups that it is anticipated will be adequate enough to stimulate the immune system. So that a quarter of the adult dose for the Moderna vaccine, for example, has been shown to produce the same robust antibody response as in the teenagers and in the adults. And then the important thing is to make sure that the vaccine provides clinical protection, and that's what the clinical trial data gives us. And then, of course, we continue to gather more information on clinical protection when the vaccine is rolled out into the population, which, as you said, in the US is anticipated to be in early July.
When adults get these COVID vaccines, there can be mild side effects like a bit of a headache or some aches. Is this similar to what we might see in children as well?
That's right. So the common and expected side effects for these vaccines are very similar to what we've seen in the teenagers and adults. Definitely a sore arm is the most common side effect, followed by fatigue and headache, and that occurs in the first 1 to 2 days. What has been really fortunate in the primary school age group is that the more serious but rare adverse event of myocarditis or inflammation of the heart muscle has been much, much lower than in the teenage age group, where we saw it quite high in boys 16 to 17 after the second dose. So there's not a lot of concern about myocarditis in this younger age group, but of course that will be monitored when the vaccine is rolled out.
How at risk are kids in this age group when they do get COVID?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, children under the age of 5 are at slightly higher risk than the primary school age group. We want to protect these children from, symptomatic disease, but particularly against severe disease. So being admitted to hospital or the more serious multi-system inflammatory syndrome. I think this vaccine will be important for this age group, but of course it remains to be seen here once the TGA approves it, whether ATAGI makes a recommendation for just high-risk children or whether all children in this age group will be recommended to receive the vaccine.
So looking at Australia, what needs to happen before it's approved here in Australia, and what do you think the timeline might be for that?
It's a good question. Moderna have applied to the TGA for approval of their vaccine. I'm not aware that Pfizer has done that yet. So the first step is that the TGA has to approve it, and then ATAGI will consider how best the vaccine should be used in this age group. And as I said, the critical question will be, should this just be a high-risk program, or should the vaccine be recommended for everyone? And that comes down to that delicate sort of risk-benefit that we have been doing the whole way through the pandemic with all these vaccines, to make sure that the risk is carefully balanced against any side effects for kids in this age group.
So Margie Danchin, it's great to have you on the program this morning. Thanks very much for your time.
Thanks for having me.